Have you ever lost everything? Not just your money, not just your job, but your sense of who you are? That's where this story begins. A man named Jose Daniel had it all: a career, a home, and the woman he thought was his forever. Until one ordinary day, the universe stripped it all away: his success, his love, his pride. But sometimes rock bottom isn't the end. It's the invitation to rebuild from truth. One argument in the middle of a rainy street, one chance encounter with a girl who washed car windshields for coins, and everything changed. She didn't have a degree. She didn't wear expensive clothes. But she had something he'd lost long ago: faith. Faith that effort matters. Faith that kindness isn't weakness. Faith that the smallest act of belief can change your entire destiny. From that day, two very different worlds collided: a broken man who'd forgotten how to dream, and a young woman who never stopped believing that dreams still belonged to her. This isn't a story about luck. It's not about money or revenge or miracles. It's about what happens when life humbles you enough to see what's real, and how love, faith, and quiet resilience can rebuild what pride once destroyed. Because sometimes the person you least expect ends up holding the map to your redemption. So stay with me until the end, because what happens in the final moments will make you rethink what it truly means to win the lottery of life. This is the story of how he lost everything and found it again on the street. Sometimes life takes everything from you, not all at once, but piece by piece, until you don't even recognize the reflection staring back at you. That's what happened to Jose Daniel. Once he was the kind of man who never had to wait for anything: money, success, or love. But on that rainy afternoon, standing in the middle of a traffic jam, soaked in frustration, all he had left was a broken heart and a car with a dented bumper. He pressed his horn again, impatient. And that's when it happened. A young woman appeared out of nowhere, dragging a bucket and a handful of rags, trying to cross the road. The brakes screamed, water splashed, her bucket tipped over, spilling soap and rainwater onto his shoes. "Hey, what's wrong with you?" she shouted, slamming her hand against his hood. "You almost ran me over." Jose clenched his jaw. "You shouldn't have stopped right there. You people never look." The words came out colder than he intended, but pride wouldn't let him take them back. The woman's eyes narrowed. She wasn't scared. She was furious. "You people, you mean people like me who actually work for a living?" Silence. Then she noticed something. A can had rolled under his tire. Her can. Smashed flat. "You sank the can. You owe me for that." Jose let out a dry laugh. "You have to be kidding me." "Do I look like I'm kidding?" she shot back. "You think people like me don't need money? That can was my lunch." She reached into the car, snatched his baseball cap off the dashboard, and held it hostage. "You'll get this back when you pay for the damage." "What damage?" he said, half amused. "The emotional kind," she muttered, then cracked the faintest grin. It was ridiculous. It was childish. It was also the first time someone had talked to him like he wasn't untouchable. When he demanded his hat back, she raised an eyebrow. "No, I'll keep it as a souvenir until you pay me what you owe me." That's when he noticed the old bag hanging on her shoulder, torn, soaked, but full of coins and folded papers. She noticed him noticing it. "Don't you dare touch that," she warned. "There's something important in there." "What, a secret?" "My lottery ticket," she said proudly, "and it's going to change my life." He almost laughed again. "You think you're going to win?" "I don't think," she said with conviction. "I believe." Her confidence startled him. That one word, believe, hit deeper than he expected. "And when I win," she added, smirking, "maybe I'll buy you a new car so you can stop running over honest people." He grinned in spite of himself. "We'll see about that." "Yes, we will," she said. "The draw is in 2 weeks. I'll be back to collect your apology." And with that, she walked away. Soaked, stubborn, unforgettable. That night, Jose drove home in silence. His girlfriend Damaris was waiting, arms crossed, eyes cold. "You're late, again." He glanced at the clock. There was traffic, an accident. "There's always an accident with you," she said. "The real one was me thinking you'd change." She turned away, muttering under her breath about a dinner reservation, about how he never kept his promises. He tried to explain, but her phone buzzed. A new message. Her tone softened. "Yes, I'll be there soon," she whispered, smiling faintly. He knew that voice, the tone she once used for him. Still, he didn't say anything. He just grabbed his keys and walked out. Outside, the rain had stopped, but inside his chest, a storm was forming. He drove without direction, past neon lights and shuttered stores, until he reached a red light, the same corner from earlier. There she was again, the car washer, the girl with the lottery ticket, Alejandra. She was scrubbing windshields, humming to herself, her hair damp from the mist. Despite everything, she smiled at each driver, a smile that wasn't fake, even when ignored. He watched her for a moment, then rolled down his window. "Do you ever rest?" he asked. "Resting doesn't pay the bills," she said, wiping the glass, "but it keeps the dreams alive." "You really believe in that ticket, huh?" She looked at him, straight into his tired eyes. "I believe in effort. The ticket's just a reminder not to give up." He nodded slowly. She didn't know it, but her words cut through the noise in his head like sunlight through fog. As the light turned green, he drove off. But for the first time in months, he smiled. He didn't know why. Maybe it was her stubbornness. Maybe it was hope. Maybe it was the way she looked at the world as if it still owed her something beautiful. All he knew was that something had shifted. A stranger had reminded him what it meant to believe again. It had been 3 days since that rainy encounter, but Jose Daniel couldn't stop thinking about her. The girl with the torn bag and the unshakable faith. The way she stood up to him like she had nothing to lose and everything to prove. He told himself it was nothing, just guilt, maybe curiosity. But every time he closed his eyes, he could still hear her voice. "I don't think. I believe." The irony wasn't lost on him. He used to say the same thing, back when he believed in his job, his future, his love. Back before Damaris started turning her phone face down whenever it rang. That afternoon, as he sat in his parked car outside her office, the reflection in the glass didn't look like a man anymore. It looked like a shadow wearing an expensive suit. When she finally walked out, she didn't see him. She was laughing with someone else, Paul. His best friend, the man who used to come over every Sunday to watch games and drink beer. The one who told him, "You're lucky, man. Damaris is 1 in a million." Now, Jose watched as that same man opened the car door for her and brushed her hair off her shoulder, a gesture too intimate, too easy, too practiced. He could have stormed over. He could have shouted, but he didn't. He just drove away, past the city lights, past the noise, until the skyline faded into the quiet hum of the suburbs. That's where he saw her again, Alejandra, standing at a busy intersection, wiping windshields, smiling through exhaustion. Her hands were red from the cold, her jeans stained with soap. But her spirit, untouched. When she spotted him, she hesitated. "You again?" "I owed you something," he said, stepping out of the car. "My can," she teased. "Dinner." She blinked. "Dinner?" "Don't worry, it's not a date. Call it repayment for almost running you over." She crossed her arms, skeptical. "You rich guys always think a plate of food makes everything okay." He smiled softly. "Not everything, just dinner." Something in his tone disarmed her. Against her better judgment, she agreed. The cafe was small, the kind of place where people came for cheap coffee and honest silence. The waitress stared for a second when Alejandra walked in, her clothes still damp from work. But Jose didn't care. He gestured for the menu. "Order whatever you want." She looked around. "I'll just take soup." "That's it?" "It's more than I can usually afford," she said, with a shrug that broke his heart a little. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he asked, How did someone like you end up cleaning cars? She didn't flinch. Because life doesn't give scholarships to dreamers. I'm saving for college. It's slow, but it's mine. He nodded. You'll make it. You don't even know me, she said. I know someone who believes. That's rare. Her lips curled into a half smile. And what about you? You look like someone who had everything. Had, he said simply. Past tense. She studied him. What happened? He paused. I loved the wrong person, or maybe I stopped loving myself first. She didn't know what to say, so she just stirred her soup. Love is strange, she murmured. You give everything to someone who never even looks up. Jose exhaled, long and tired. You sound like you know. Everyone knows, she said. Some of us just can't afford to pretend we don't. Halfway through the meal, a man's voice cut through the air. Alejandra! A tall, rough-looking guy approached. Her brother. His expression was thunder. You were supposed to be working, and who's this clown? He's just a customer, she said quickly. Customer? You think this is a date? He grabbed her wrist, too tight. Jose stood up immediately. Let her go. And who are you? Her new boss? Her friend, Jose replied, voice calm but firm. And if you were any kind of brother, you'd treat her better. For a second, no one breathed. The brothers sneered, then spat on the floor. Stay out of this, rich boy. You don't know what it's like to survive. You're right, Jose said quietly, but I know what it's like to lose respect. For yourself and others. Alejandra stepped between them, trembling. Please, just go. Both of you. The brother walked away cursing, shoulders stiff with anger. Jose turned to her. You okay? You shouldn't have done that, she whispered. He's not bad, just broken. So are most of us, he said. She smiled faintly. Then maybe we're both repairable. That night, he drove her home. A small apartment above a bakery, the windows glowing faintly from an old lamp. Before she stepped out, he said, Keep the ticket safe. You might need it. Why? Because luck likes brave people, he said. She laughed softly. You really think I'll win? You already did, he replied. For the first time in years, Jose didn't go home angry. He didn't feel cheated or betrayed. He just felt human again. He parked outside his building, closed his eyes, and smiled. The dinner had been meant for someone else, a woman who never showed up, but somehow it found the right person instead. That next morning, Damaris woke up to find Jose already dressed, buttoning his shirt in silence. He wasn't angry. He wasn't shouting. And that frightened her more than any argument could. Where are you going? She asked. Out, he replied, still focused on his tie. Out where? He looked at her through the mirror. To dinner. Her eyes narrowed. With who? He smiled softly, a smile so calm it felt like a storm was coming. With someone who actually wants to be there. She froze. For years, she had held the power. Through manipulation, guilt, and her ability to twist tenderness into control. But now, he wasn't fighting back. He was walking away. Jose, you're overreacting, she said, following him to the door. You think I don't notice when you pull away? You think I don't see how cold you've become? Maybe it's because I'm tired of pretending we're still in love. He grabbed his keys, turned once more, and said quietly, Enjoy your night, Damaris. I'm sure Paul will. The door clicked shut, and that was it. No shouting, no chaos, just the sound of a chapter closing. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Alejandra stood in front of her mirror, holding a borrowed dress. It was soft blue, a little too long, a little too fancy for someone who spent her days washing windshields. You look like someone from another world, whispered her neighbor, who'd lent it to her. That's the point, Alejandra said, smiling nervously. Just for tonight. She didn't know why she'd agreed to dinner. Maybe it was the kindness in his eyes. Maybe it was the way he listened. Or maybe it was because... For once, someone looked at her without judgment. When she arrived at the restaurant, she hesitated at the door. The light was warm, golden, elegant. She felt like an intruder. But then she saw him, Jose, waiting with a single flower resting beside his plate. "You came," he said, standing up, eyes softening as he saw her. "You thought I wouldn't? I thought you'd have better plans." She laughed. "This is my better plan." They sat. They ordered. And for a while, the world outside didn't exist. "So," he asked, "what would you do if you won that lottery?" She leaned back, thinking. "I'd study. I'd fix my brother's debts. And I'd open a place. Not fancy, just clean, warm, where people could eat even if they can't pay." "You'd give it all away," he said, half amused, half amazed. "Not all," she smiled. "Just enough to make the world a little fairer." Then she looked at him. "And you? What would you do if you could start over?" He exhaled. "I'd stop chasing things that don't love me back." Alejandra's gaze softened. "Then maybe you just did." For a moment, silence filled the table, not uncomfortable, but fragile, like something new being born. Across town, Damaris poured herself another glass of wine. She wasn't alone. Paul was there, sitting on her couch, tie loosened, voice dripping with familiarity. "You shouldn't have called him out like that," Paul said. "He'll suspect." "He already does," she sighed. "He's not stupid, just too kind." Paul smirked. "Then we're safe." She stared at her glass. "Are we?" For the first time, guilt flickered across her face. "Paul, do you ever feel like we're the villains in someone else's story?" "We're just following our hearts," he said smoothly, moving closer. She let him kiss her. Not out of love, but out of fear. Because deep down, she knew Jose's silence wasn't weakness. It was the sound of someone done playing the fool. Back at the restaurant, the waiter brought wine. Jose hesitated. "I don't usually drink." "Me neither," Alejandra said. "But maybe we should toast. To something." "To what?" "To second chances." Their glasses clinked gently. The sound was small, but it meant everything. Then came music, soft jazz that filled the air like a sigh. "Do you dance?" Jose asked. "No," she laughed. "I clean windshields. That's my cardio." "Then let me teach you." She tried to refuse, but he extended his hand. Slowly, she stood. Their movements were awkward, uncertain. Two strangers swaying in sync for the first time. "I feel ridiculous," she said through laughter. "Good. That means you're alive," he whispered. For a second, their eyes met. The world blurred, the restaurant disappeared, and all that remained was the gentle rhythm of hope rediscovered. At that same moment, Damaris and Paul were dancing too, in the dim light of betrayal. She thought she'd won, that she'd escaped consequence, but fate has a cruel sense of timing. As Jose turned Alejandra around in his arms, smiling for the first time in months, his phone buzzed on the table. A message, Damaris. "I hope you're happy tonight." He looked at it and whispered under his breath, "For once, I am." Later, outside the restaurant, the night breeze carried the scent of rain and something else. Peace. "Thank you for dinner," Alejandra said softly. "No," he replied. "Thank you for reminding me what dinner is supposed to feel like." She smiled. "Like what?" "Like company that's honest." And when she turned to leave, he realized something that had been missing for far too long. Not love, not luck, but meaning. Because sometimes, the people who have nothing left to offer end up giving you everything you needed to begin again. Morning light spilled through the curtains like a confession. For the first time in weeks, Jose Daniel woke up with a quiet mind. No bitterness, no racing thoughts, just calm. The kind that comes right after you finally stop caring what broke you. But fate has a way of testing peace the moment you find it. His phone buzzed. Damaris. He stared at her name on the screen for a long second before answering. "What is it?" "We need to talk," she said softly. "About what?" "About us." There it was again. The tone she used when she wanted something, when her guilt turned into a weapon. But something in her voice felt uncertain. maybe fear, maybe regret. "Come to the apartment," she said, "please." He almost didn't go, but part of him needed to see it, not for closure, but to make peace with the ghost he'd been chasing. When he arrived, the air inside felt heavy. Wine glasses on the table, 2, a jacket on the chair, not his. He didn't need to ask whose it was. From the hallway, a familiar voice echoed, "Paul." He was standing near the door, shirt half buttoned, pretending not to notice the shame hanging in the air. Jose looked at him, not angry, just tired. "I should have known," Jose said quietly. "The late calls, the canceled plans, it all makes sense now." Damaris stepped forward, trembling. "It's not what it looks like." "Then tell me," he said calmly. "What does it look like to you?" No one answered. Paul opened his mouth, but Jose raised a hand. "Don't. I don't need explanations." "Jose, please." He shook his head. "I'm not here to fight. I just came to say thank you." "For what?" she whispered. "For teaching me that love without respect is just self-destruction." Damaris's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't stay to see them fall. He walked past both of them, leaving the apartment door wide open, just like the space where their love used to live. Outside, the air felt cleaner. The weight was gone. He didn't feel victorious. He didn't feel broken. He just felt free. He got in his car, and without thinking, he drove. Not to his office, not to a bar, but back to that familiar corner where life had first collided with him in the form of a stubborn, fearless girl. Alejandra. She was there, as always, sleeves rolled up, wiping down a car window with quiet determination. When she saw him step out of the car, she froze. "You came back." "I said I would. I thought rich people only make promises when someone's watching." He smiled. "I'm not rich anymore. I'm just learning how to start over." She tilted her head. "So you're human now?" "Trying to be." They both laughed, and the tension dissolved like morning fog. But then he noticed something. The bruise on her wrist, faint but fresh. "Did your brother do that?" She looked away. "He gets angry, but it's fine. He doesn't mean it." Jose's jaw tightened. "You deserve better than fine." "And what do I deserve then?" she asked quietly. "Respect? Peace? Maybe someone who sees you for who you are, not what you owe." Her voice trembled. "People like me don't get fairy tales, Jose." "Then maybe we should stop waiting for them," he said, "and write our own." That made her smile, the kind of smile that came after years of swallowing pain. Later, they sat together on the curb, sharing cheap street food and quiet laughter. For a moment, they weren't a failed businessman and a car washer. They were just two souls trying to breathe again. "You know what's funny?" Alejandra said. "When we met, I thought you were the rudest man alive." "I was," he admitted. "You just didn't run away." "I should have," she teased, "but I didn't. Maybe because I saw something." "What?" "A man who'd lost everything, except his heart." He chuckled. "And what did you see in me?" "A woman who still believes in impossible things," she said softly, "like second chances." Meanwhile, across town, Damaris sat on the floor of her apartment, mascara streaked down her cheeks. Paul was gone. So was the confidence she once carried like perfume. She picked up her phone and scrolled through old photos. Vacations, anniversaries, dinners. In every picture, Jose was smiling. She wasn't. And for the first time, she realized she hadn't just lost him. She'd lost the version of herself that used to be kind. That night, Jose drove Alejandra home. The streets were quiet, the city lights dimming behind them. "You ever think about what's next?" he asked. "All the time," she said, "but thinking too much doesn't fill your stomach." He laughed softly. "Maybe not, but it fills your hope." "Hope doesn't pay rent," she teased. "No," he said, "but it builds something bigger. Faith." When they reached her door, she turned and asked, "Why are you helping me, Jose?" He paused. Because you remind me that broken things can still shine. Her eyes shimmered, not from tears, but from belief. Then let's shine, she whispered. He nodded. Together. That night, as he drove home alone, the radio played a soft tune about second chances. He rolled the window down, letting the cool air fill the car. He didn't think about revenge. He didn't think about what he'd lost. He just thought about a girl with a dream, a lottery ticket, and a courage bigger than the world. Because sometimes healing doesn't come from fixing the past. It comes from meeting someone who shows you that the future is still worth fighting for. 2 weeks passed. The city carried on as if nothing had changed. But for José Daniel and Alejandra, everything quietly had. He no longer wore his tailored suits. He didn't need them. These days, his morning started with the scent of soap, car polish, and street dust. The same smells that once made him wrinkle his nose. Now they felt like truth. Every day he showed up at the same intersection, not to check on her, but to help her. He'd wipe windshields, take out trash, and fix the broken water hose she'd always struggled with. And every time she tried to pay him with the few coins she made, he refused. "Stop treating me like I'm fragile," he said one morning. "Then stop acting like you're my bodyguard," she shot back, smiling. Their banter had become a rhythm. Playful, teasing, warm. The kind of routine that felt like home. One afternoon, as the sun began to dip behind the buildings, Alejandra leaned against his car door, wiping sweat from her forehead. "You ever think we're crazy?" she asked. "For what?" "For dreaming," she said. "For thinking the world owes us something better." "Maybe," he admitted, "but the world only changes when someone's crazy enough to believe it can." That made her laugh, the kind of laugh that shakes something loose inside you, and that's when it happened. A voice blared from a nearby speaker, the kind of static-filled radio that echoed through the marketplace every week. "Ladies and gentlemen, the national lottery results are in—" Alejandra froze. Her rag dropped to the ground. "Wait," she whispered. "That's today." Jose blinked. "What's today?" "The draw," she said. "The one I told you about. The ticket I kept." They huddled around the small radio outside a fruit stand as the announcer's voice listed numbers, slow and deliberate. 8, 1, 2, 3, 4. Silence. Then her scream shattered the street. "I won!" she cried. "I won! Jose, I won the lottery!" For a second, he thought she was joking. Then she pulled the crumpled ticket from her pocket, shaking so hard she could barely hold it. "Check! Check it!" she shouted, laughing and crying all at once. He stared at the paper, then at her, then back at the paper. The numbers matched. Every single one. The fruit vendor clapped. A taxi honked in celebration. Even the sky seemed brighter. She turned to him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Do you believe me now?" she said between sobs. "I told you I would win." He laughed. A real laugh. The kind that comes from somewhere deep. "You didn't just win, Alejandra. You proved that faith pays better than luck." She threw her arms around him, sobbing into his chest. "I can go to college now. I can pay the rent. I can finally breathe." He hugged her back tightly. "You can do anything you want, but promise me one thing." "What?" "Don't change who you are. Money doesn't make people rich. Kindness does." She nodded against his shoulder. "Then we're both rich already." The next morning, her story spread like wildfire. The girl who cleaned cars had won the national lottery. Reporters showed up. Curious neighbors congratulated her. For a while, the street felt like a festival. But through all the noise, she stayed grounded. She still worked that week, still helped her neighbors, still brought Jose lunch at noon. One day, he asked her, "Why are you still here? You don't need this anymore." She smiled. "Maybe not, but this is where I found myself." He looked at her, at the woman who had turned his broken world into something whole again. "You changed my life, Alejandra." "No," she said softly. "You just remembered who you were." A few days later, she invited him to a small restaurant. Nothing fancy, just 4 tables and a chalkboard menu. "What's this?" he asked. "My new project," she said, eyes gleaming. "A place where nobody gets turned away, even if they can't pay." He blinked. "You're really doing it." "You thought I was joking?" "I thought you'd buy a mansion or a car." "Maybe someday," she said, grinning. "But first, I want to feed people who need hope as much as food." He sat there, watching her talk to the cook, adjust the sign, wipe the tables. She was glowing, not because of wealth, but because of purpose. When she came back, she handed him a small cup of chocolate. "Taste it." He did. It was warm, rich, and a little bitter. "It's perfect. Like life," she said. "Sweet and hard to swallow sometimes, but still worth it." They both laughed. That night, after closing time, they sat outside on the curb again, the same place where they'd shared their first real conversation. "So," he said quietly, "what happens next?" She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I build something. You help me. And maybe we both heal a little more." "That's a lot of maybes," he teased. "It's enough," she said, "because this time, I don't need luck. I have faith." He smiled, watching the stars flicker above the city. "You know, when I first met you, I thought you were trouble." "I was," she said, laughing softly. "I just turned out to be the good kind." Weeks later, her restaurant became the heart of the neighborhood, a place where rich and poor shared the same tables, where laughter drowned out worry. And Jose? He managed the place quietly, always in the background, polishing tables, welcoming customers, learning to live again. People whispered about them. The man who lost everything and the woman who believed she'd win. But they didn't care. Because sometimes the real lottery isn't money. It's finding someone who reminds you that you're still worth loving. When a reporter asked Alejandra what her secret to happiness was, she said simply, "I didn't win by chance. I won because I never stopped believing, and because someone believed in me when I had nothing." Beside her, Jose smiled, not as a savior, not as a victim, but as a man reborn by kindness. And that day, everyone who heard their story realized one simple truth. You can lose everything, your job, your love, your pride. But if you still have faith in yourself, in others, in the small goodness that hides in every stranger, then life will always find a way to give you back more than it ever took. In the end, it wasn't the ticket that changed his life. It was her, a girl who scrubbed windshields with her bare hands, but polished his soul with her faith. A girl who believed in something that money could never buy, that even broken people can shine if someone just looks at them long enough to see the light still flickering inside. Jose Daniel didn't win a prize. He won back his purpose. And Alejandra, she didn't just win a lottery. She won her freedom, her dignity, her chance to give back to a world that had never been kind to her. They didn't ride off into a perfect sunset. They built one. Slowly, with laughter, mistakes, and mornings that smelled like street coffee and second chances. And maybe that's the quiet truth life keeps trying to teach us. You don't have to be lucky to start over. You just have to be brave enough to believe that you still deserve better. Because sometimes, the most life-changing stories don't start in boardrooms, or mansions, or million-dollar meetings. They start on the street, in the rain. Between two people who had nothing left to lose except the fear of beginning again. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to share it with someone who's trying to rebuild theirs. Tell us in the comments, would you still believe in hope if you lost everything? Or have you ever met someone who helped you find yourself again? And remember, wealth can vanish, love can fade, but kindness stays.